Today, I'll be teaching you guys this little strategy that I think will help increase your rating if you're an intermediate player hoping to get to that advanced level of strategy. What is this little strategy? You're gonna have to find out. So what is this strategy that I'll be showing you guys today? This strategy is this very simple c3 move for white or c6 move for black. I want you guys to try making these moves a lot more often than you usually do in your own games. My second piece of advice for you guys right now is try not to trade as many pieces as you guys most likely are doing already if you're an intermediate player if you wish to improve. So what do I mean? Let's say we're playing this variation over here. Let's say we're playing this. It's very common for white. Bishop c4 and bishop c5. In this position, a lot of people like to put their knights on c3, f3, and like put a bishop on e3. But in these positions, I actually do not like knight c3, and most pro players don't like knight c3 either. Instead, they like this pawn move, pawn to c3. Now you might be wondering, wait a second, how can pawn c3 be a very good move if it doesn't develop a piece, it doesn't really control the center, and it doesn't really castle the king? So why is this c3 move so good compared to this knight c3 move? And the answer is quite simple. Well, this c3 move has a plan, and it has an idea. And if you guys have looked at my other videos, you guys will know I put an emphasis of having a plan if you want to escape that intermediate level of like 1200 to 1600 and go into that 1800, 2000 level-ish. And this is one of the things I've learned, the c3 move, in any position really. And it helps me just play for d4, and if my opponent plays knight f6, countering it, I know the main line is pawn d4 in these variations, but I actually just recommend playing pawn d3. And I think pawn d3 is very, very, very good because if your opponent's unsuspecting, which I assume they are, let's say they play pawn d6, you already have a pretty good position. After pawn b4, your opponent moves his bishop back. Let's say you play pawn a4, trying to trap his bishop. He sees it, you push here, and then he suddenly gets a pretty sketchy position here because you're gaining space. And this is the power of this c3 pawn move. It allows you to play b4, b5, pawn a4. It allows you to gain a lot of space where you really shouldn't be getting space so early in the game. And this c3 pawn also has another purpose. Let's say your opponent castles, or you castle, your opponent castles, you play rook e1. Let's say your opponent plays, I don't know, bishop g4, pinning your knight. You can play knight bd2 defending. A lot of the positions that I like personally is having knights that are defending each other like in these positions over here, so I can just move my queen away and then just not get, pinned to death like you in a lot of positions in normal position. So our opponent plays queen d7, and in these positions I can play queen c2, rook d8, and I can eventually get d4 in. And this, you can see the c3 pawn supports d4. This bishop on c1, he can go to a3, he can also go to b2. I really don't know yet. It really depends on the position. And if you were to check the evaluation, as you can see, because of the space we have in the center and in the queen side, we already have a very favorable position, even though all our opponent's pieces are developed. Well, not all of our pieces are developed yet. Because something that you guys need to know is that having development is good and everything, especially as a beginner, but as you get better, it's more important to have a plan or an idea of what you want to do, right? And so in these positions with the c3 plan, our plan is to go a loop-de-loop strategy that I call, which basically says I'm going to kick your knight away, I'm going to get the center, and what are you going to do about it? So what do I mean that you can really play this against any position? So as you guys all know, when we're playing on the black side, what's my favorite opening? If you guys already know, hopefully you guys had watched my previous video about the snapping turtle opening or the lion defense, which is this d6 strategy. And so what I realized, what I liked about this opening is the entire point of this opening is to go for this e4 pawn. So our opponent goes, we go knight bd7, he plays knight f3, we play pawn e5, he plays bishop c4, we play bishop e7. This old mainline Philidor defense or line defense, whatever you want to call it. And the idea is in this position, we're going to play pawn c6. Why are we playing pawn c6? Let's say opponent plays h3. Not the best move, but let's say he does. A lot of people play it. You get to play b5. And this is what I call the crab formation. And it's what I really like. It's when we play c6 and play b5, and then we have this crab-looking thing over here. If you don't know why it looks like a crab, I'll just be posting a picture right there to show you what a cartoon crab looks like. So b5 is played, and then the idea of this is we're going to kick the bishop away, and now this pawn can help us in our attack. We can even play a5 in this position, trying to make our opponent scared. Let's say he plays a4. We can play b4 and such, and then kick that knight away, who is a crucial defender of this e4 pawn. Now we can do a lot of things. We can play bishop a6, bishop e7, just attack this e4 pawn for the rest of the game. We already have a slight advantage, I would say, because we have more space on the queen side. In fact, let's check it out over here. As you can see, the position is actually slightly better for black, because of this queen side advantage. So, let me show you one more position in which we can play this e4 strategy. So, there's an opening called the King's Indian attack. And the King's Indian attack is a pretty solid setup, depending, it really doesn't matter what your opponent plays. Let's say your opponent plays e5, you play knight f3, attacking his pawn, he defends it, and then you play this d3 move. Now you might be asking, wait, this d3 move can't be very good. It can't be better than bishop c4, and that's true. But the idea of this opening is that we don't really want to trade pieces early because we want to outplay our opponent in the middle game to prove that we are the better player. So let's say our opponent plays here. We're going to develop our bishop to e2. Opponent plays knight f6. We castle. Our opponent castles. And then we can play our pawn to c3 move. As you might be thinking to yourself, wait a second, we're going for that b4 strategy again. We can also go for d4 strategies in this position. And it's hard for black to defend. Like, what is he going to do? If he plays pawn d6, we get d4 in. It might say, oh, why doesn't he just play pawn d5? Well, the idea is we can play knight b2 defending this pawn, and guess what position we actually have? If you guys haven't realized yet, this is just a Philidor defense, but, you know, as white. And we get the crab formation the next move with pawn b4. Do you guys see that? After we play pawn b4, we have the crab formation, which is pretty good for us. As I said before, we get a massive queenside advantage. We get to do a lot of fun stuff. And that's why I think this little strategy, this c3 strategy trying to go for b4, maybe this crab formation type structure will be very good for you guys, and I think will help increase your chess rating and chess skills very, very, very much. So if you guys enjoyed this video, I hope you guys press that like button, press that subscribe for more chess content in the future. If you guys want to learn how to basically analyze your own chess games easily and efficiently, check out that video over there, and I'll be seeing you then.